Ever since I watched the Mystery of the Druids review, a lot of people suggested that I could go back in time to check out the Limbo the Lost review because he did this one first and there were a lot of references to this. And I think they're very similar games, although this also has the tag, the greatest bad game. And I think in the description there was talks about plagiarism and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see what that situation is. But of course, before we begin, always make sure to go and support the original video. Link to that is always at the top of the description.
Hurry up, Briggsy. Shake a leg. Get the move on. Oh, no, no,
no, no. What? Why? What is even going on? Oh my god. Okay, I mean, Mystery of the Druids is also really crazy. So I'm going to assume this is going to be as much or even more crazy than that. What a strange era of video games. I wasn't there for any of this, so this is just fascinating to me.
A few weeks ago, a game called Hunt Down the Freeman was released. To put it bluntly, it's abysmal. There are feature-length videos talking about how bad it is.
I've never heard of that game.
It was using assets that appear to be stolen from other games and mods. I saw some people calling this the biggest scam in gaming, but I remembered a story very similar to this one, and not too long ago actually. Imagine a game that stole at least 10 times as much stuff but got a physical release. Well, it's here. It's actually right here on my desk. Highly enjoyable. I was immersed within the first few minutes. I've never heard of any of these websites, but I do agree that it is a highly enjoyable game. As you can tell from the title, this isn't just going to be a review this time. It's going to be a little different. So in the spirit of Hunt Down the Freeman, I'd like to share a game that's so bad it's good, but also so much more. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Forget reality. Surrender to your darkest dreams.
This is maybe the best advice you'll get in the whole game. When you start it up, you get a cutscene of someone falling through fire, and it's from the movie Spawn. I don't mean they ripped it off, I mean they literally took this scene from the movie Spawn, and they just made it their intro.
What the fuck? What kind of... How do you get these kind of ideas? Like, does nobody understand what copyright is? It's really not something that you want to mess with, and with us being kind of a reaction channel, trust me, I understand it very acutely well. But even fast forward in time to modern gaming, there's also still cases like this, where I think it was Tower of Fantasy, where they stole like a trailer, basically the movements and the cameras of a different game trailer, and then they copy that into their own game trailer, and they took assets from, I think it was assets from Honkai Impact or something, and then used it in their trailer to advertise their game, which I don't know how you think you can get away with that, considering how many eyes are on you and how thorough the internet is. Like, people will rip apart your game in order to see every single file regardless of how you want to protect that. So yeah, there's just no way you're gonna pass under the radar.
The only thing different they did was putting a border around it. And the border itself, taken from a World of Warcraft wallpaper. The game hasn't begun, there are already 2 lawsuits waiting to happen. This came out in 2008, this wasn't, you know, Wild West internet. I'm not gonna play the whole intro, but there are only 3 people.
Okay, no, it was 2008. I mean, now at the time of recording this, it has been a very long time, but even then, I feel like the internet and internet culture had already kind of taken shape.
People listed in the credits, and that's probably why. Also, I have no clue what anyone's saying or what's happening. Give a listen to the audio mixing.
Why, it's a warrior.
Oh my god. Wow. This is basically every new YouTuber ever. Audio mixing is such an interesting thing, and so hard to understand for so many people, but I absolutely hate it when a video game has like voices that are mixed so low comparatively to their background music, that even when you like bump down the background music all the way down to the lowest possible setting, and the voices are at the highest, it's still kind of just even. Like, what's even up with that? And I'm looking at you, Danganronpa. Why do all of Spike Chunsoft's games have such loud music and low voices? Yeah.
This will come up again later, but even if you could hear them, it wouldn't make a difference. Finally, we get to the prologue, featuring a vaguely adjusted Battle for Middle-earth loading screen. Then...
Oh my god. Literally. Like, it's unmistakably so. Like, how could you not? Oh.
It begins.
What a guy.
So you are with?
Was that meant to be a jump scare? What?
Good. No. Do not be fearful of me. I am to help.
What's this
Not
voice
to
acting?
hurt. I am friend.
Where do you even start with something like this?
Right?
Well, first of all, the style of cutscene may be familiar to some people. I couldn't understand what it was until later. It's a spiritual successor to the CDI Zelda cutscenes. It has all the ingredients.
Oh boy, I'm so hungry I could eat an Octorok.
Arok doesn't tell you about your backstory or why you're there, but he tells you to stay away from the dark ones. Well, I guess he tells the main character Briggs, because you, the player, are a character.
Yes. Look, they're on the other side.
I see. We had recently played a game that also did this. I'm not gonna say which one, just in case of spoilers, but it's something that is very difficult to pull off, and I'm going to assume with the quality of this game so far, that is one of the things that it also did not pull off. Making the player a actual character within your video game, or like acknowledging the player's existence. I feel like that's one of the things that really depends on the story and the themes within that story, whether or not introducing the player as a character makes any sense to the themes. Because I think in a lot of modern media, we just like to have this self-aware attitude towards the viewer or the player in order to make our story like quirky or different. But when everybody does that, then it doesn't work out. And it just becomes boring. It's not really a subversion of expectation anymore. Now granted, this came out in 2008, so it was long before our current day and age. But even back then, the point still stands. Like, it's very hard to pull off, and most of the time it doesn't work. Nowadays, I actually crave for stories that are unapologetically take themselves seriously. Something like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which it's fantasy, but it takes itself seriously as a fantasy movie. Or even something like Guilty Gear, whose lore is super over the top and incredibly awesome, and it's just unapologetically awesome. There are often times where it doesn't need to explain itself. It's just like, yep, this is how our universe works, and it's really cool, and you're gonna enjoy it, without having to acknowledge how stupid or funny it is. I would think most people appreciate that kind of attitude much more than something like this. Whoa.
When you finally get to playing, it seems like any typical adventure game. Limbo the Lost is entirely in 2D, which is awkward. At best, the Briggs model just seems out of place compared to everything else. At its worst, the game just doesn't know how to handle him. A lot of the backgrounds look jagged and awful, and in theory, this could be fixed with anti-aliasing. I tried setting it up to maximum, and as far as I can tell, it doesn't do anything. Oh right, like I just said, this is a 2D game, so that's a screenshot. Why have the option?
Why?
That is incredible. Sometimes character sprites will double over each other in different positions. The art style can change every other room. Basically, the visuals are a mess on a technical and artistic level. Some people play adventure games to explore aesthetically pleasing worlds, and this isn't one of those. Limbo the Lost keeps you entertained by being half freak show and half scavenger hunt. For example, the first room you're in, stolen from Return to Castle Wolfenstein. The entire beginning of the game is. I'm not going to show all of it, so it would take forever. Just seeing what's stolen is fun, but there's so much more.
I will say that I don't know too much about Wolfenstein. I have heard that like the most recent game wasn't very good, but the other ones are pretty good.
For example, here's going up a set of stairs.
What is that?
That's never...
What? Why? What was that meant to convey? It's like, oh no, spooky, scary jump scare. What happened?
Explained, it just happens. That's the story for this game. Things happen.
Go away.
Black Hawk trust no one.
Your name is Black
only
Hawk?
trust birds.
I hope you can understand why this is beyond the regular video format. This is going to be a house tour / history lesson of an insane asylum. I'm not going to show all the good parts, but I'm going to break some things down, show some stolen stuff, and show how it doesn't work. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I'm no stranger to sound issues in games. However, Limbo the Lost has a unique one that I haven't seen anywhere else. There are no audio options, not even volume control. Fair enough. I can just lower the volume mixer. This works for a little bit.
What do you mean, a little bit?
Whoa, what happened? The sound level just jumped back up.
Wait,
Whenever
it resets?
you change a room, your volume spikes back up to your default. I've never seen something like this. I can only guess it's running some kind of check every time it loads.
What? What? I don't think I've ever played or even seen or heard of a video game that would do that. When you change into a different room and then your volume just spikes back up. Like, what's even the point of setting... Well, then again, you don't even have a volume setting, so... But like, how does that work on a technical level?
Loads a new room and then sets your audio up. Shh. Grunger. The big technical issue is that the game is prone to crashing. It seems to be random, but right here, I can swear that Briggs crashes the game.
What?
Well, there's your port report, PC Master Race. Luckily, you can...
Wait, what was the timing on that? He knocked on your computer screen and then crashed the game? Oh no, dude. Oh, imagine this is all just an elaborate ploy. This was one of those like horror games that crashes your computer and intentionally blue screens it, only for you to find out that the horrific character in that video game is now in your files and on your desktop. I forget which horror game that was. I do remember watching somebody play through it though, and I feel like there are actually quite a few of them nowadays that do that. Well, I had this whole rant about like video games acknowledging the player and whatnot, but I forgot to speak about the side where it's actually used in a good way. And there can certainly be those moments where it just all clicks. Probably the best example I can give you guys is the Nier series, both for Nier Replicant and Nier Automata, which acknowledge the fact that you're playing a video game and acknowledges the absurdity of some of the things that you do in that video game to make you question your choices and honestly just who you really are. Or at least for me, it caused me to have an existential crisis. When it's used like that, it can be very effective because it ties into the other thing I said, which it ties into the themes of the story. I don't think this particular game is going to do that though. I think this game is just trying to do everything all at once at the same time.
You can load from the splash screen or anywhere else in the game. If a conversation is going too long and you're worried about crashing, you could just pause the game and save in the middle of it. So the crashing isn't as big of a deal as it should be. By the way, check out the menu. The unpause button being back to hell is pretty funny, but look at the gargoyle. I won't run out of these anytime soon. It's good that the technical issues are for the most part weird and not game destroying. Having a so bad it's good game is much harder than a so bad it's good movie. With something like The Room, you just pop it in and watch Tommy do his thing.
Yeah.
This is why good bad games are hard to find. A bad game is like having Tommy Wiseau make the movie, but also the DVD it's carried on, in the DVD player. I've seen some people say that Hunt Down the Freeman is a so bad it's good game, but it's really not. If you're spending more time lost or feeling frustrated than laughing at the works of a madman, it's just not a good bad game. I don't think games that are designed to be broken like Goat Simulator should count for the category, but I'm not the expert. There's just something special about seeing someone's different brain working at full capacity on a passion. Limbo...
Different brain in quotation marks. I'm not really a huge fan of this kind of genre of gaming. The so bad that it's good kind of thing. I would rather something take itself seriously and try to be good and actually have something to say, which is also probably why I'm not the biggest fan of stuff where you can just play and mess around in it with, like Goat Simulator. But to each their own. Everybody's looking for something different from the media that they consume.
Limbo the Lost started development sometime in the early 90s, so nearly 20 years went into this. So the fact that it's functional and relatively hassle-free on a modern system is a blessing. So now I'm going to show you how the game is played. The interface is very simple. You can right-click anywhere in the game world to open up a Ouija board. On an object, you can sense it, look at it, take it, or perform an action on it. In reality, you'll only be using 3 of these and not sense because it's useless. It's your sense
Okay.
of smell, but most things in the game you can't smell.
No sense, no feeling.
99% of objects in the game will say that. When it comes to inventory, you
Gotcha.
just mouse to the top of the screen to access it, and you can use your actions on these items as well. For example, if you have a letter, you could use the look command and then read it. Wait a minute. Well, I guess Cranny Faggot likes to drop with the hard stuff, but the menu. Ah. I don't know if you see anything that I miss. Anyway, some of the
course.
letters only open main menu options. You won't get all the letters until about the last 10 seconds of the game.
So incredible.
Since you also click to move
How
around as
blatant
well,
it
you
is.
don't need your keyboard for any of this. So the controls are fine and the UI is passable except for two flaws. That compass is always spinning. You might be
So
saying,
what's the
so
point?
what, it's spinning around. Well, just wait. When the levels will start turning into a maze, this is going to get into your head. To give it credit, it will stop moving when you mouse over an exit, but it might not always stop in the exact right place. Like right here, it stops moving for a moment, but I click there and I can't move off it. Nope, that didn't do it.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
Oh my god. Come on, finally, there we
what?
go. Interesting piece. I saw those skulls just everywhere. Well, once again, it's more Diablo. And a shield of all things.
Interesting.
Naturally,
Poor Diablo, man. As a fan of dark fantasy, I feel like Diablo would be one of those series that I really, really enjoy the lore of. But like, the games though, everything past 2 is not it, man. I haven't played it personally, but just from the horror stories that I've heard about what they've done with it. And yes, I do indeed have a phone.
you expect bad adventure game logic for the puzzles. And don't worry, those are there. It just takes it farther into crazy person logic. So now I'm going to go through the game chapter by chapter and show things I thought
I'm honestly not surprised that it takes into crazy person logic considering the mind of the person, the state that it has to be in order to make this game a reality.
were interesting. Not all of them in case you want to play it yourself, but enough to give you an idea of what to expect.
Oh, I say, we have a visitor. How lovely.
Hi.
What the? Oh, sorry, I forgot. Hang on. Do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. What was that face? Such a good reaction face, though. Oh my god!
Dungeon Master.
The prologue is brief, but it serves as a perfect introduction to the game. Your main goal is to steal a key from the jailer known as Grunger, or Grunger, depending on who you're talking to, and escape.
Oh, that's the Schrunger thing on the sign that we saw earlier, yeah?
To get the key, you need to make a sleeping potion and knock him out and snatch it from his neck, except he's already asleep. Huh. What's interesting is how they were able to weave the stolen
Okay.
backgrounds together into something consistent. Like I said before, the very beginning is from Wolfenstein, but the later parts of the prologue are from a different game, an Xbox hack and slash called Enclave, or Enclave depending on where you're from. This is what you would go out and rent before the Souls games were invented. Back in the day, we just called it
Okay.
Swede Souls, you know, because Starbreeze is Swedish.
Oh,
Man, this reminds you of the good stuff. Anyhow, I went on
I wasn't there during that era of the good stuff, unfortunately. But that did look kind of familiar. I did own a PS2, although the games that I had on that were pretty limited.
a sightseeing tour in some games to find the locations. A lot of the Limbo of the Lost backgrounds are really zoomed in or have the colors adjusted, but it's not enough to hide it, especially if someone's looking for it. However,
Yeah.
Enclave is integrated into the game a little bit differently than the others in one area. In the prologue, you meet a trapped character who's hanging in a suspended cage and he doesn't shut up. It's a joke that goes on way too long, but I like the skeleton in the background. You need to collapse the cage so you can grab his arm and then throw it into the sleeping potion you're making. You go to the room above
Lovely.
the cages and see the 2 ropes suspending them. There's a huge lever in the room, but it does nothing when you try to action it. Plus, I can see that these ropes are attached to a gate. Meanwhile, I found the same room in Enclave. They did try to hide this a little bit more by flipping the screen around. Good hustle. So you pull the lever and
Awesome.
it raises the gate. The one you can clearly see. In Limbo of the Lost, you have to be Captain Kleptomaniac to put together a torch and then burn down the rope.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, 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 oh,
What?
oh.
Uh-oh.
This is terrible.
Meanwhile, no, you can't slash the ropes. Maybe they thought that the puzzles were too similar, so made their own torch puzzle to differentiate.
Oh my god. So that's why. They're like, yeah, we can't have the same exact puzzle, so we gotta go through this other crazy person route in order to achieve the same thing. Wow. Honestly, this game is amazing. I don't care what critics say. How does someone come up with this? Truly a visionary ahead of their time.
Differentiate from it. But in that case, why leave the lever there? Did they not have anybody who could Photoshop it out? I haven't gotten there yet, but it's not even the most blatant plagiarism. Not even close. So what came first, the torch or the lever? Was the puzzle based around a stolen level, or did the puzzle come first and they just made the level fit into it somehow? Well, I think I have the answer. Remember when I said it was in development for nearly 20 years? Well, they released a demo in 1995 for the Amiga 32. The 88th issue of the Amiga Computing magazine only had some images of it, but the 11th issue of a magazine called Amiga CD32 Gamer had a demo. As far as I can tell, issue 11 is lost to time, but the demo isn't. Time to fire up the emulator.
What a stink. And before you say it, it isn't me.
Sure, dude. Sure. Okay.
Man, gaming used to be so much better back in the day.
Forget reality. Surrender to your darkest dream.
They kept the same line.
Why did we change the entire intro?
Wow, we'll have hordes of monsters. I've got to admit, this game looks a lot nicer than the one they released.
Yeah.
Stuck? Try logic.
The Amiga version is actually more of a pain because you have to cycle through more options with the mouse by right-clicking.
It's a locked door.
What makes it unbearable is if you don't do something for 7 seconds, he stops the game.
Hello?
This is also a timed demo, so I don't want to have to keep restarting it. It's really reminding me of CDI Zelda now. But wouldn't you know it, it's the exact same first puzzle. Grabbing the torch, combining it with the human fat, and lighting it in the cauldron. The exact same thing.
Nah, this brew's designed to chew, not spew.
What a weirdo.
This demo is going to have some more importance, but I'm going to put it aside for now. The demo proves that, on some level, there was an original game being made.
Then why? Why did we change the style so much? Was it to just be up to date with all the other point-and-click adventure games at the time? Not gonna lie, I kind of prefer the demo's art style over whatever this is. There's a certain charm to that kind of art.
So it wasn't a complete sham of grabbing things from other games and designing it around that. That being said, there are stolen elements that are just lazy. For example, all the signs are using a Lord of the Rings font. Why not use a font that doesn't need a license? It's a shame because the elements that are original are genuinely bizarre and funny.
What the?
So how bad do the puzzles get? The sleep potion isn't that far-fetched, except you also need the jailer's snot to complete it. Plus, you get your first taste of crazy person logic. Cranny's potion calls for liquor, so you'd think you could find some liquor somewhere, but you can't. You fill a jar with water, combine it with a worm, and then you have tequila. That's dumb, but only a taste of what's to come.
How? How is anybody supposed to figure that out without a guide? Like, how are you supposed to logic? Whatever, man. I give up.
I'm back from the sewer water. Here's your booze, Madam Faggot.
Probably
you
not
wake
even
up
like
the jailer to give him the potion that puts him back to sleep, and then
the
grab
worst
his
example.
key. And you're done.
Clubs up. My favorite.
My favorite.
Chapter complete. The tutorial.
Yay.
I'd usually be in the middle by now, but everything's all messed up in this video. And so begins Chapter 1.
I, young man, am the keeper of lost souls. You have done well to get this far.
What is this place?
To some, this is home. To others, it is a halfway house between their world and the next. This is the Keep of Lost Souls.
So tell me, am I dead? What the?
Yeah. Let me give you this.
Sorry about that. Don't know what came over me.
We are off to an excellent start. This is when the levels start to open up and the
I don't... What? Whenever I play a video game, I always like to sit back and think, you know, what exactly is the intention here? What are they trying to say? Where is the story going? And come up with theories and such. Now I think I fully understand what Mandalore meant when he said that this game just... it has things that happen. It just is what it is. Just like, look at it, maybe chuckle at it, and then move on. There isn't really much more need to think about it. I don't think it's one of those games that has a intricately woven lore behind it all. It's just something.
The true madness begins. There are a bunch of coffins you could grab items from, but several of them are red herrings and they don't do anything. There are also 3 items, 2 of which you need to complete stuff, but you can only hold 1 at a time. 1 gift to rule them all. Some of the investigating is odd and lacks visual cues. I use take on an empty eye socket and I get a glass eye out of it. Why not just have an eyeball there?
Yeah.
Chapter 1's beginning is all about teaching you not to trust what you can see. Like crossing this bridge that has rotting planks that are breaking apart. All the items I collected didn't help me out, but here's the answer. You go to the entrance of the level and pick up an entire coffin lid. Now you could use it on the bridge to cross. That doesn't look safe to me. Your perspective really gets thrown off in this level. Not long after you find...
It doesn't even cover the entire gap. Oh my god. But, you know, whatever.
It looks like a satanic dog bowl. Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Oh, don't tell me. I was really expecting the dog from Harry Potter. Or maybe the model from the game.
Hey, are you asleep?
Oh my god, they did it. Alright, I see it. And stop. Actually, they are 3 separate dogs, so it's not a complete ripoff. But then why only show 1 dog bowl in the cutscene? The world may never know. To keep the dogs distracted, you have to put a bone in each of their bowls. For every bone you put in, a gate opens up. This room is a 3-door hub to the rest of the level, so ideally you want all the doors open at once. The only place you can get a bone is from the first room, but you can only carry 1 at a time. It's about a minute trek each way, and there's no special event or challenge, it's just to waste your time. As for
I should stop saying what, why. I feel like I'm going to be saying that the entire video.
The level itself, it's interesting in that it's not only plagiarizing, but also recycling plagiarized material. It's mainly Painkiller, the Catacomb level to be exact. All they did here was slightly angle the screenshots they took and sometimes slap some signs around. Dead Man's Drop, Dead Man's Curve, Dead Man's Gorge. I wish I was dead. I wouldn't call it a maze because there's only so many directions you can go, but it is annoying. Like any average adventure game, some stuff you can figure out on your own, but others are just deranged.
Oh, thank you, Black Hawk, but really, there's no need for...
Black Hawk.
Shh. No buts. Now, go.
Do you know what? Every gift tells a story.
I would be really excited to see Briggs in the new Smash. While there are more elaborate...
What does that even mean? Why would you bring that up in this context? What a natural conversation path. Like, what?
Puzzles to choose from. There's a really simple one that shows madman logic, or maybe 4-year-old logic. Eventually you'll need a soul of a warrior to get past a statue that's drunk and sounds like Predator. You need to switch the real green soul bottle with a decoy that you make yourself. So you fill up an identical looking bottle with water, that's a good start, but what do you mix it with? You use a bag of saffron. Now saffron spice is typically more red colored. The color saffron is named after the tips of the flowers that make the spice. So assuming it is a bag of the spice, it'd be more red colored, but we can pretend that it's all golden saffron tips. So you combine the yellow saffron with the water and you get green? Because water is blue and saffron is yellow and blue plus yellow equals green?
What?
Water isn't paint. At least not in my part of the country yet.
Come along now, you can let me now. Yeah, it's alright. I promise I won't talk anymore. I won't talk about anything. I promise you.
What are you even saying?
The first level also has the first of 3 hidden items. You can only see it if you aim for the left of the stairwell here. It's not horrible, but a little too out of the way. Rest assured, each one of these will be worse than the last.
Lovely.
My favorite. Here, you must take in exchange for gift.
I think that's enough of chapter 1.
I can't get over it. I gotta find that as like a GIF and save it. I have to. Like the amount of meminess that could come from that just expression. I don't even know if it even qualifies as an expression. It's just, there's something so uncanny about it.
Like I said before, I'm only giving you a taste of what's in store. The sewers.
What are you smiling?
What's really incredible is how little you learn by talking to so many people. We're now 2 chapters in and we only know that we're a chosen one and that we're stuck in limbo. The story offers just about zero intrigue. Like anything so bad that's good, you just keep playing to see what happens. It still might be best to play this game in bursts. The ambient audio never stops looping, but this one soundbite is the worst. It's roughly every 2 minutes. It's also a stolen sound effect from the Hammer Haunson Thief. The sewer slash swamp level has the most plagiarized things I could recognize without looking stuff up. The first screen, once you pass into the sewer, is from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Most of the gross sewer seems to be the Hollywood.
Now that's a series that I've seen a lot of you guys suggest I check out. Apparently it's got some pretty interesting lore behind it, as well as a fairly good video game as well.
Hollywood sewers. There's an entire room filled with Morrowind items. There's a set of orcish armor and a bunch of weapon models they just retextured. This won't be the last we see of Elder Scrolls games, not even close. There's also this Greek helmet in the corner I thought was from Google Images. After looking around, it turned out to be the Dusk Deep helm from Diablo 2. Incredibly, I don't think this is the most blatant plagiarism in the game yet. That won't be until next chapter. Chapter 2 does have one of my favorite stolen assets, the flute. Not the instrument itself, but the song. Okay, they had a little Indiana Jones tune, so what?
My God.
It's more than you think. They didn't bother to whistle the tune themselves, but instead took an Easter egg from Serious Sam. That is impressive.
Wow. Like literally, right? You could make your own original thing if you just whistle it yourself. But no, you gotta take the sound effect from an Easter egg in Serious Sam, which I only learned of because when I didn't get a reference to Serious Sam during some stream or video, I got gifted all the games. So now I have them. I haven't touched them, but they're there in my Steam library. From my understanding, I think it's basically just FPS, action, stupid fun kind of game, but I could be wrong.
As for the game, it's very similar to Chapter 1. Once again, there are 3 main doors, except this time you can only open one at a time. Innovative. The puzzles themselves are becoming more cruel, both narratively and mechanically. Can you see the important item in this room? It's not this panel, not this jar, not the glowing picture on the wall. It's a piece of wood on the back desk. You can only click on about 2 pixels of it, so you can mouse right over it and miss it. This is the second worst hidden object in the game. As for narrative, at one point Briggs sneaks up on an old man and then puts an iron bear trap over his eyes. That seems a bit excessive, so why would he do that? To take his pen and ink.
We are straight up a villain. We are the bad guy. This is... I don't know which is worse. Like in Mystery of the Druids, when he cooked up a concoction in order to potentially murder the poor homeless guy in order to steal his money so that he could use it for the telephone. Like what was that? And comparatively to this, which is worse?
Reality is slipping.
There's some lovely filth around here.
Oh.
Who are you? Go on, clear off.
Roger that.
Neat, Thor's hammer.
Oh. Is he worthy? I guess so.
Logic is running on empty in Chapter 2. So now we're gonna move on to the only real plot and character-driven level in the game, Chapter 3.
Okay. I hate these camera shots. Like why? Why is there always these constant zoom-ins on the face that are just way too close? Like, is it supposed to make you feel unsettled? Because the only thing that really achieves is just a comedic effect. Maybe that's what they were going for? To make you feel as if you, the player, are being stared at? I don't know. Yeah, this! What is that?
Why is the music double overlaying? Darkmere.
He's very, very worried about you, and I'm a little bit worried myself about being worried about your friend, being worried about you, being worried about this, and I want you to take it so I don't have to worry no more.
Oh, thank you, but who?
Oh, dead. He worried himself to death. That's supposed to be a child?
Soul Taker!
Her audio is way...
Oh no, never mind. That's Soul Blighter, right? I was gonna be like, the Bungie lore. It goes deeper. No. I just look for it in everything. There's something wrong with me.
way better than the main characters. What? Darkmere is the first time you can learn more about the inhabitants and where you are. It's refreshing. After doing random tasks with very little story drive, it's nice to have some narrative. Briggs has been accused of being a monster called the Soul Taker. You're imprisoned in a very familiar looking cell, but it's not for long. You find your way out.
Okay. You just annoy the guards? Okay.
It seems we have done you a great injustice, my good fellow.
The mayor appoints you as detectives, so now you need to interview people, gather clues, and find the real Soul Taker.
Why did he appoint us as detective? As like a way for us to atone for the fact that they wrongly accused us? What?
You can have a little LA Noire clue book. Why is the snow not cold? That's a good start. And so begins...
I don't know. If it's warm snow, somebody probably peed in it. That's my guess.
the most unbelievable plagiarism in the game.
Okay, what is it? Oh, are you kidding me?
Serious. Nearly every single interior is ripped out of Oblivion. It's not remotely subtle.
Oh my
They copy
God.
floor plans entirely. The Shivering Isles expansion had come out just the year before. This could have been on the same shelf as Oblivion. People were actively playing this game. How could they think no one would notice? It's mind-blowing.
Right?
There's no other way to put it. Out of all the things that people might miss, you took entire levels from a popular AAA game that was still on shelves. Even then, they still managed to screw up the background. I still play modded Oblivion from time to time, so I could go right down to the first edition bookstore. Here he is behind the counter, and here's the back view. You enter the building from the wrong side. The register facing the clerk, the books facing outwards, it's all mixed up. They couldn't even get the chair completely out of the shot. This feels like having an out-of-body experience. The fact that living human beings thought they could do this and make money off of it without getting in trouble is mind-boggling.
Right?
Now would be a good time to bring up the fire. Since they just screenshotted the level, they needed animated torches. All the fire in the game uses fire.gif. They downloaded a fire gif, put it on the Oblivion screenshot,
Heck yeah.
level completed. It wasn't even the first time in the game they took Oblivion assets, but Darkmere is chock full of them. It's unreal. Literally unreal. Unreal Tournament 2004. Except
Of course, man. This is downright impressive. Like, you can't even be mad because of the absolute gall of whoever made this game. You have to have some balls to do this, or else you're just gotta be completely ignorant and not understand that copyright exists. But like, have they been sued? Have they been approached at all? Because you know game companies, like, they will come after you if they think they can get you. Well, it depends on the company, but that's not something you fuck around with.
they were taking and editing user maps. So they took all these measures to change the map from some map maker, but not the major studio game owned by ZeniMax.
Right?
Oh my...
Oh, okay. Yeah, calm down, dude. Oh my God.
Oh dear.
I can never return to first edition. So, what is there to see in Cyrodiil? There are several interesting characters. You might not be able to talk to them for long, but what's there is really good. Much like the real Oblivion, however, it's held back by the amount of voice actors they had. Much of Darkmere's population is voiced by one guy pitching his voice up and down or making funny voices.
It seems we have done you a great injustice, my good fellow. My dear friend and trusted advisor, Omega's here.
Can I help you, miss?
This is basically me just playing through a video game and voicing all the characters. At least sometimes you can shake things up with like getting Kiwi and Silver in here, help voice some of the other characters, but like, I mean, it makes sense if you're playing through a video game and streaming it or doing a let's play of it, but like actually doing that for a video game, your budget's gotta be really tight if you're doing something like that. Although considering the amount of ripped assets that we had to use, I'm going to assume that we made it on a extremely minimal budget.
Actually, it's Mr., not Miss.
What? You can't be my sister. I haven't even got a sister.
Mr., I'm a man.
For an age,
Are you sure
it
about
seems
that?
This has been going on. One after another they disappear. Souls taken.
There are two actors with better equipment, but they have their own issues. Sometimes you can hear the click of someone starting to record it in the background.
My pleasure, Mr. Detective. Now, you sure nothing takes your fancy before you go?
Detective? I say, detective, we found another one.
Can you hear me?
Well, at least he died peacefully.
Can you help me find the soul taker?
Mon Dieu, s'il vous plaît, monsieur. Do not say those two words within this house. Shadows may seek even this place.
The amount of emotion. Truly voice acting worthy of an Oscar. If this is the level of voice acting they need, I can probably sign up right now. Oh!
What is this game?
Hey, come on. Give her a chance at least.
What are you talking
Detective
about?
Briggs is a mix of both the best and the worst the game has to offer. Exploring the town and finding clues are more engaging than all the other chapters, at least until you hit a wall. Unlike the previous levels, Darkmere is expansive. They even give you a map that lets you teleport around town, it's so big. Now this is great for a while, but then the game starts trying to trick you. When you and your deputy find another victim of the Soul Taker, sometimes you'll automatically pick up his items. This saves hassle at first, but it doesn't always work this way. Sometimes a cutscene will end and the game will automatically have you leave the area, but you don't want to leave, you want to go back. There are items being left behind that don't show up in the previous screen, so you always want to double check. Here, I can see the key on the floor, but the game has me walk right past it, and I have to go back and get it. If I wasn't paying attention, I could have been screwed from that and had to look all over town to find the right item. The stolen level design that's not touched up makes it even harder than it should be. That light really is an exit on the Unreal map, but in here it looks like one, but you can't go through it. This Frankenstein of a game isn't even stitched up right. Sometimes an area that had nothing might have items appear there later. Keep checking the journal. If something's not crossed off, you have to go back later. I could follow the plot up until Briggs was hiding in a stable with some terrifying horses. So he scopes it out and he's like hiding in the corner and these characters walk in and then one says horses for courses. I've played this a few times now and I have no idea what this means, but it's the key.
That's what the creature was trying to tell me.
You mean this guy?
Horses for... What the fuck? I don't think I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight, guys. What the shit is that? What is that? I've never played a horror game with a creature so horrific as that.
There was only one point when I was really stuck, and it's a nightmare. At some point when you leave first edition books, you get hit with a snowball.
Whoa.
Oh, whoa.
The note says there's more than one way in, and I'm glad the game points it out. I'm serious, there's so many typos and spelling errors that you might think differently. I look all around the inn and I don't see any secret passage or switch or button or anything. Maybe the note meant there's another way to go inside the inn from somewhere outside. So I explore the areas around the inn, but I still don't find anything. So here's the answer. The horrible, horrible answer. First, you have to go behind the bar to a very exact spot in the corner. Then you mouse around for a magic pixel. No text prompt comes up, your hand just changes shape for about half a second. You have to be standing in the right place, so I have to keep waving around to do it right. Up, nope, there we go.
Whoa.
Now you're in the Secret Oblivion dungeon.
What?
That by far is the biggest blocker in the game. Now I can just...
It takes a very incredibly, awesomely special mind to come up with this. Thank goodness I've never played a video game with as convoluted of a system as this. I mean, there are certainly some that I've expressed my opinions about that I feel like just weren't very clear to the player. But none of this pixel hunting. I guess the closest example I can think of was one particular scene in I, the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative, where the game wants you to click on a book that is on the table that is right next to you. The thing is, it's a very tiny book, and the prompt before that is supposed to, you're supposed to be sneaking into a facility and looking for a secret entrance to an underground chamber. So, like, the book on the table isn't really something that you're gunning for or expect. That added on to the fact that there are like several other items on the table, and you can also turn around to the other side of the room as well, which also has a ton of items over on that side. And a guard comes by every minute or so, and you have to do a QTE in order to avoid them from catching you. It was just such a bad area of the game. Like, I loved Nirvana Initiative, but oh boy, that was like the lowest point in the entire game. I hope Uchikoshi never tries to pull one like that again, because that does not work. That's the closest I can think of, but well, at least in recent memory, but it comes nowhere near this.
Just grab these Baldur's Gate cloaks and be done with it. When I finally found the big piece of evidence, I nearly had a stroke. I'm gonna leave that as a surprise. When you have all the evidence, Rex brings it to the court. Not since A Time to Kill has there been a speech quite like this one. He's trying to reach a word count.
No. This is an evil, greedy, corrupt society whose lust for wealth and power means that they will stop at nothing to get what they want. The landlord of the very aptly named Inn of Sins. A fine, upstanding people, ladies and gentlemen. These people that you know and recognize.
Okay.
Take a good look.
I timed it. This goes on for 7 minutes and 45 seconds, and you can...
Jesus fucking Christ. I know it's a point-and-click adventure, but... And I mean, to get to this point, there were so many stopping points that you had to get through anyway, so you might as well stick around for it, but I feel like taking control away from the player for such a long amount of time is just a bad recipe. Like, what's even the point of playing the game anymore? This reminds me of a particular scene at the very beginning of Fire Emblem Engage, where a certain character is dying in your arms, and I think the game wants you to be sad, but you don't even know this character very well. And it's just one of those anime death scenes that last for, pretty sure, like 6 or 7 minutes. I think tons of people's Nintendo Switches kind of just went into sleep mode before the cutscene even ended, and it was like, it was bad. Like, regardless of how good the gameplay is, I think all of us could agree that the story was not there for that game. This whole speech seems to give off a similar feel. However, at the very least, despite how much I dislike it, Engage still has gameplay that is good and fun. This one does not.
Not skip it. It actually sounds like an essay being read aloud. He drags out every piece of evidence you found. I could feel myself being pulled into the void when suddenly one of the greatest cutscenes in video games begins.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you your Soul Taker.
What? Hey, 3, 2, 1. I thought it was gonna do a Mockingjay symbol or something there.
The Soul Taker has been banished. Your mare has been returned.
Absolute art. It's never explained what he did. It's great. So it's time to move to the 4th chapter, after the troll removes all—
I mean, it's never explained what he did. This is in line with the majority of this entire game. Like, you just do things because you have to do them to progress. Nothing more.
all of our items.
Uh-oh. Oh, shit. Why did he throw us like that?
Who do you think you are throwing your weight around like this?
Instead of being like injured or like groaning or angry, he just gets up, puts his hands behind his back, and they're like, who do you think you are? These point-and-click adventure protagonists, they are a different breed. They are so built different. I would be incredibly scared to be in the same room as one of them. Even worse, if I have something that they need in order to complete a puzzle.
The Machine. Chapter 4 sucks. Not in a funny way, it just drags out too little for way too long. As far as I know, this map is made entirely from Unreal maps. Way too few. This is a case study in how not to pad out your adventure game. It has a map similar to Dark Mirror, albeit much smaller. All of the numbered tower locations are completely identical, except some have items. Tower 1 and 2 have nothing, a complete waste of time. Tower 3's only items right outside the train. There's no reason to explore the rest. So there's not a lot to see, but the game knows it. There are 2 objects that really stick out, but you can't interact with them at all. You have to do other minor tasks, and then they show up and you can pick them up. I don't know why this bothers me so much. Possibly because it was something I expected, but it didn't happen until now. The only good things about it are the cutscenes. There's only a few of them. You can beat it all in 10 minutes. So now's a good time to talk about background stuff before the final chapter. Oh my god, the whole country is a circle.
And Benjamin Spooner
Who could have seen that coming?
Captain of the Mary Benjamin Spooner Briggs. Captain of the Brigadier Mary Celeste.
I like Briggs as a character because he's a goofball, but you don't learn a lot about him. You can learn some things from the bonus disc. It's an enlightening piece of media. For starters, it has an entire intro cutscene that's not in the game. Yeah, when you're just thrown into it all with no context, this was supposed to be in front of it. Why it's not actually in the game, I have no idea. It has an intro, credits, titles pop up, and it's way more elaborate than the one the game has. I can only put it down as another mystery. Anyways, the weird vampires in the intro are brothers named Destiny and Fate. But aren't those the same thing? I guess Destiny usually has more positive connotation than Fate, but still. Anyhow, Briggs gets lost in the Bermuda Triangle. It has some live action footage that people debate over the source of, but they definitely didn't make it. It explains that Briggs is on an island and his actions will determine the future of mankind. Those are higher stakes than what the intro implied. Wait, that's the Crisis demo. Maybe they scrapped it because they knew they weren't allowed to use that. It's still incredibly vague, but better than what the game came with. It even shows why Briggs is flying through the big hell portal from Spawn. So Briggs is still a goofball, and this doesn't change that. But here's where it gets strange. Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs was a real man. His ship, the Mary Celeste, was also real and was found derelict a few days after this game takes place. Briggs and his crew were never seen again. This game is the final legacy of a real God-fearing sea captain.
Are you kidding me? This poor guy, this is his legacy? To be in a game like this? Do we get... How have they not gotten sued by anybody? Like they have to. I'm like 100% certain they didn't get permission for this. Or maybe, you know, when it comes to these kind of things and maybe there's like no next of kin, so like it's just a freebie. I don't know. I don't think he would be very happy though, knowing that this is his story and what it's become.
Grab your Chicago style and get on JSTOR, it's time to learn. Limbo of the Lost was a book originally published in 1969. It got republished in the 70s as Limbo of the Lost, Actual Stories of Sea Mysteries. There were several articles and a few books talking about the Bermuda Triangle before this one, but this helped popularize it. The real course of the ship was nowhere near the triangle, but here's where things get a little tricky. So I went to my buddy Tex from the Black Pants Legion. He's done historical work specializing in maritime...
Oh hey, Tex! Oh man, that just reminds me. Battletech. It's such an interesting universe. I haven't been doing any Battletech videos recently because, I mean, there's just so many other things that we're currently covering too. But it could be nice if I finally get around to the Battletech video game. That's when I'll likely go back to learning more about the whole world and stuff. Because then I get something tangible to see while learning the lore as well.
Time history, so he'd be perfect. At this point, I knew that the real Mary Celeste was one of those weird sea mysteries. It was found derelict near Portugal with no crew, all the cargo intact, but a missing lifeboat. Some of the sails and rigging were damaged, but that was about it. Now here's where things get complicated. Sir Arthur Doyle, the guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes, had a short story published in 1884. It was in an issue of Cornhill magazine, and was based on the real Mary Celeste. He just changed minor details and names, like calling the ship the Marie Celeste. The story ended up being so popular that to this day it corrupts historical documents about the real ship. The U.S. consul in Gibraltar, who had been present at Mary Celeste's hearings, would later make inquiries based on the story's facts. After Tex did some groundwork and things, he found out the big discrepancy: the cargo. Doyle's account puts the cargo value at $35,000, which is worth more than the ship. The alcohol was also going to be used to fortify wines, but that's not how this works. The real ship had 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, most likely pyridine and methylate spirits. This wouldn't be how port and fortified wine were made. They would use a neutral grape spirit, most likely locally, not from overseas. Not to mention that port was mainly a cocktail mixer in the Victorian era. Shipping booze across the Atlantic to make ratchet peasant wine would have been stupid and expensive. So any
Okay.
account saying the cargo is worth 35k and being used to fortify alcohol is wrong, and written by brainlets. This eliminates most accounts of mutiny and aliens. So was Briggs eaten by his crew? A sea monster? Well, the most likely answer came out a few years before this game was made. Dr. Andrea Sella of the UCL Chemistry Department built a replica of the Mary Celeste. He simulated a butane explosion from the cargo hold which made a big fireball but left no signs of burning on the ship itself. This would explain why the ship was damaged but showed no signs of burning due to a pressurized explosion. It explains everything being left behind and no entry in the captain's log, because explosions at sea are scary. So why are there still weird theories? Because there's money to be made off mystery.
Yeah, obviously.
The simplest solution makes sense. Other tantalizing evidence suggests another fate for the Mary Celeste.
The first mate's wife claims that on the night of November 25th, she had a dream.
No way.
Oh my
said
god.
That her husband had been murdered at sea.
Please stop. The new owners of the Mary Celeste then,
Oh, it's always just the more fantastical reasonings, you know, that we want to believe in because it's more interesting. But yeah, reality is reality. Although, to be fair, sometimes reality can be extremely messed up and even further beyond our own imagining. But the whole Bermuda Triangle thing is just not true. It is something cool to play up, though. And, like, you can get some pretty interesting fictional stories out of it.
Took it to a reef off the coast of Haiti and tried to wreck it there for 6 insurance policies. They didn't get it. Speaking of scams, the developers claim they didn't steal anything. It was all done by a mysterious person or entity that they outsourced. Well, guess what we're coming back to? Remember the Amiga demo? This hallway is the key. There's another Amiga game called Guy Spy, and people have pointed out some striking similarities in this hallway. That's right, even back then, they were ripping people off.
Oh.
This game is legendary. So, let's move on to the final chapter.
Holy shit. It's a robot.
You mentioned something interesting. Cypher is pursuing new research. He claims that what they're doing in Africa is the missing piece. A weapon to surpass Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
The Citadel. This is another short one made of Unreal maps, but I like it a lot more aesthetically. The original score, maybe the only thing not stolen, is also really good. The puzzle's just matching up a right hammer with the right head on the wall and you're good to go.
Nice. Wow.
Still, for the final level in this
Oh my
adventure,
God.
it seems like a letdown. It did seem rational at first. After all, they couldn't expect a ton of people to get this far. But then the true final challenge began.
It's very dark down here. What?
Oh no!
Oh, my head. What the hell am I?
Oh, this is not a good situation.
Intruder! The Dark One knows you. Where is the seal? The Chosen commands your death. You answer to me.
It's a time challenge?
That is a legitimately awesome build-up. This is a time challenge. Remember where each head was and activate them in order of a panel. This is not a lenient timer.
Yeah, that goes really fast.
I got all the symbols, but now there's letters. Looks like destiny. The timer keeps going and you don't have time to screw around. You're gonna be at the bottom, so you need to get those letters in as fast as you can. Once you do, you've won it all. I'm saving the best ending for last. This comes after. Fate is upset that Destiny has beaten him, and so they opt in for a double or nothing. That's right, they were already teasing a sequel. We both know a lot of reasons why that's not gonna happen. For those same reasons, I would highly recommend checking it out, or getting a copy. Unsurprisingly, there were a lot of legal issues after this game came out, so the retail boxes got pulled. At the time of this video, you can still find wrapped copies for $15 to $20 US, but those won't last forever. This isn't getting a digital release or an enhanced edition anytime soon. For all its problems, it's such a bizarre and funny experience that, for someone like me, I couldn't help but keep going. And nothing reflects its spirit better than the real ending. Thanks for watching. If These videos are increasingly harder to make due to scheduling issues, but I'm trying to do it when I can. At some point in the near future, I'll have a special showing of this game on Twitch, same name as the YouTube one. If you stuck around this long, thanks again, and here's the perfect ending.
I can't see a thing.
Hey!
Go on, ring the baby. Now that sounds really groovy.
Really?
I tell you what, let's sing. Well, it's nice to see bricks safe and sound. After all he's been around, and in my beauty should be crowned. The king of Limbo. Well, he's had his ups and he's had his downs. He's had his smiles and he's
This
had
is
his
real.
frowns. But I still say he should be crowned the king of Limbo.
What more can a poor boy do? Working for the likes of me.
This is a fire song. Heck yeah. Best ending ever in all video games ever. Even better than all the dance numbers in the Song Files.
He took his courage to the brink. If it
man.
were me, I would turn to drink. Well, that's the reason I think he should be the king of Limbo. Yeah, he had to face enough sins, but at least he kept his leggy limbs.
His leggy limbs.
That we should be crowning him the king of Limbo. Take it away with you, baby. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh. Hi.
What more can a poor boy do? Working for the likes of me and you. What more can a poor boy say? But I could use your help in any way. We've all had fun, you must agree.
What am I watching?
Interactively, but now we feel that brick should be.
I'm watching Peak. That's what's happening. What do I even say?
The king of Limbo. A do up, a dooby doo up, a do up, a dooby doo up, a do up, a dooby doo up, king of Limbo.
You don't want to know, Joseph. You don't want to know. I'm kind of in one of those moods where I'm glad I just saw or did the thing that I did, but I know for a fact that I don't ever want to do it again.